There are only two things I'm truly embarrassed about: the amount of money that I spend on athleisure and how long it took me to get away from just doing the simple open chords in a key. So today we're going to talk about some really kind of simple, I would say beginner, intermediate tricks that you could do to really kind of beef up your open chord type progressions and stuff. All right, so we're gonna do this in the key of C to start with, but this can be translated to any single key. And what we have to know first are the chords that go in a key. I remember when I was first learning guitar, I just memorized a bunch of open chords but had no context, right? Just because the chord is open, you can figure out an open chord in pretty much any key, but using them in one key is the best way to really kind of understand how music works and just to learn songs and memorize songs and stuff like that. So let's go through really quickly all the main chords in the key of C. You probably already know these, but we're using this as a group, as a unit together, so we can add on to it in a way that makes sense contextually. All right, so C major is the key. C major is the parent chord, the Mac Daddy chord here. The Lululemon of chords is C major, all right? The one chord in the key of C. There's 7 notes in this key: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again, right? So no sharps or flats. There are 7 notes in pretty much any key, as long as we're using the major scale. But yeah, that's the one chord, C major. All right, the 2 chord is D minor. The 3 chord is E minor. The 4 chord is F major. The 5 chord is G major. The 6 chord is A minor. We're not going to talk about the 7 chord, B minor 7 flat 5 half diminished, whatever, like that, because again, this is beginner, right? So 6 main chords, 3 major ones, 3 minor ones: C major, F major, G major. 3 minor chords: E minor, D minor, A minor. Okay? Now, there's no way that you can combine those chords and make it sound bad just because they go together so well. All right? Each one of those chords has 3 notes in them. Even if you play all 6 strings on the guitar, like this C major voicing right here, you're still only playing 3 different notes, okay? So, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a chord from outside of this key. This is gonna be the first way that we can kind of expand on just these open chords. So let's take a simple chord progression like C major, A minor, D minor, F major to C, okay? Maybe you've seen this before. We could number this with the scale degrees. We have the 1 chord, to the 6 chord, to the 2 chord, to the 4 chord. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna replace that 2 chord with a chord that is technically outside of this key. The name of the chord is B flat major, okay? So I'm gonna do this again. Second time around, I'm gonna replace that D minor with a B flat major, then we'll talk about B flat just in general. C, A minor, D minor, F. Second time. Now that didn't sound bad. I thought it sounded pretty cool actually, all right? This is a chord replacement. Really works well anytime you see a D minor. Now the reason that is, if we look at the notes in a D minor, and again, pointer finger, 1st fret on the high E string, pinky or ring finger, 3rd fret on the B string, middle finger, 2nd fret on the G string, open D. So the notes in that chord are D, F, and A, okay? Now if we look at a B flat major, which again, doing this voicing is kind of tricky. This isn't like a beginner voicing where it's 1, 3, 3, 3, 1, but you could also just do A major, 2 higher, or it's just 3, 3, 3 on the D, G, and B strings. So now these notes right here, we have a D on the B string, your pinky's holding down. Our B flat is right here, the 3rd fret on the G string. And then we have an F, the 3rd fret on the D string, right? So F, B flat, D, as compared to D, F, and A. So they're 2/3 of each other. They both share a couple notes. That's why using this chord in this key sounds great. Okay? We could do it in different chord progressions in this key still. Let's do just a 1, 4, 5 in the key of C. It's probably like the most common chord progression. Very, like every blues song is kind of like some combination of 1, 4, and 5. For the most part, I know there are exceptions, blues people. We don't have to get into it right here. C, F, G, C, B flat, So it always works. Now, what we would call that, if we're communicating with the musicians, this would be a flat 7 major chord, okay? Because in the key of C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, we have 7 notes. B is the 7th note. If we flatten that, what's a flat B? It's a B flat. So that's how we can kind of communicate this is a flat 7 major chord. All right? So you can just call that out. Be like, all right, what are we playing? We're playing a song in the key of C. The chords are going to be 1, 6, flat 7, 4. 1, 6, flat 7, 4, back to 1. Okay? So there's a lot of information going on there. All we did is we added one single note to the key. We could even play it as a scale again if you want. C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, B, C. Just like that. And then that opens up like a world of possibilities. But I think it's easiest to start just by thinking, okay, in any key, I can go to the flat 7, which is super easy to find. If your root note, whatever it is, you just go 2 frets behind the root note. All right, we could do a D major. And then in D major, what's C sharp, D flat, C. It would just be adding a C major chord to a D major chord progression, right? And it's always a good move using the flat 7. You know what else is always a good move? Putting elixir strings on your guitar. This video is sponsored by Elixir Strings, the best strings in the game. I've had these on my Martin D18 probably for, I think it's probably been like a solid 2-3 months. And I feel like they're in the perfect spot where like the guitar... The guitar sounds so good, okay? Like having a great guitar is only one part of it because you need to replace your strings. Let's be honest with you, you probably need a new set of strings on your guitar right now, right? Look down at it, look at how rusty and stuff those old non-coated strings are. You gotta get some elixirs, my favorite strings of all time. These are the 12 nanowebs, Phosphor Bronze nanowebs. I'll have an affiliate link in the description. Again, they're just the best. You won't regret it. They last forever. They feel a lot better on your fingers, and they just sound good. The proof is in the pudding, guys, right? So, flat 7 major chord is the first thing you're gonna add to your repertoire, and honestly, it just sounds impressive, right? Like people are like, oh, what are you practicing? Oh, I'm just playing a bunch of C and G and A minor. It's like, okay, cool. Basic. It's like, oh, what are you playing? Oh, I'm playing a little bit of a 1 flat 7 major 4. Come on, that's a show-stopping statement just in and of itself. All right. Now, the next thing I want to do, this is going to be a little bit interesting. This is going to be, I think of this as a 2.5 type chord. Okay, so we're going to do a very similar progression. We'll do C to this new mystery chord, and then A minor F, okay? So it's gonna sound like this. Okay, so again, I'm thinking of this as a 2.5. This is not an official music term. This is just me kind of making shortcuts, right? What's the second note in the key of C? C, D. What's the third note? E. In between there is 2.5. By itself just sounds wrong, right? Because we've been playing so much C major. It's like, oh, sounds kind of nasty, right? But if you put this chord on here, this is a minor 7, flat 5 chord shape. I think I said earlier we weren't going to talk about minor 7, flat 5 chords, but guess what? You've been tricked. Naturally, this chord occurs on the 7th degree of C, but we're taking it right here. We're gonna do 2 examples of this, all right? So it's a really easy chord shape, I think, that people get almost frightened by because it has such a ridiculous name, right? E flat minor 7 flat 5. It almost sounds like just bad directions to get somewhere, but actually it's really easy to do because it's just 6 7 6 7. Really easy chord shape to make. I would argue is actually way easier than pretty much most of the other chords in this key. But it really has an impact, a dramatic impact musically that I want to talk about really quick. So now, because it happens between the 2nd and the 3rd degree, you can use it as a way to get to either of those, right? Like let's say in that first example, I just like going from the root note and then going higher like that, because it's a little bit of a jarring sound that you can really easily get back into like that kind of easy, good feeling home sound, but it's just a little mini thing that kind of throws the chord progression on its side. And then again, using it where it on a note that not technically belongs in this key, I think is just something that really has a lot of value and is really good for your ear too. So I'm starting here with that C major, and then getting right into it, right? So I'm going what's really a minor third. A minor third is 3 frets away from any note. Major, a minor third higher with this half diminished chord, and then any other key, any other chord in this key is like, oh, cool. I just kind of, went outside and I came back a little bit. Now, like I said, technically, this chord does exist in the key, but it exists on the 7th degree, which is always easy to find because you don't have to count to 7, right? Again, I get it. Musicians have a hard time counting to 7, but way easier to count to -1, and that's what is really important in this key. There's our root note C. Just go back a fret. There's B, and then now if we have 2, 3, 2, 3, we have another totally usable chord that sits inside the key. All right. So we've got these 2 shapes. Well, there's one shape with these 2 chords that we could use in different contexts, and this is really, I think, is very interesting exercise songwriting, trying to find a place to put these 2 chords, because again, they have such a signature sound that I think is kind of undervalued. Now, in between stuff is kind of where they'll shine. Like if I'm going from a C major to an A minor, putting that B minor 7 flat 5 in there is just a really classy move, right? This would be the Lacoste of athleisure, right? Kind of French sounding maybe, a little Parisian. C, B minor 7 flat 5 A. We can combine them. C, B, A, B, flat. Now let's go and use the E flat somehow. Let's go from the D minor to that E minor, C, D minor. And again, I'm just using all open chords except for that guy. Once you, listen, I'm telling you, if you're in like some kind of jam or you're over at a friend's house and you bust out an E flat minor 7 flat 5, guys, I'm telling you, game over. Wrap it up. Legend status, instantly. All right? Now I've got one more kind of tip that we can go outside of a key absolutely anytime. And this is a great just practice and habit to get into thinking about. And that is using dominant 7 chords in a very old school way that like piano players and stuff would always use in like, old Scott Joplin piano playing type things. And that's anytime you're going to a chord, before you get there, point to that chord using a dominant 7 chord in itself. All right. So if you follow my Patreon or follow my videos before, you know that on that 5th degree of any key, a dominant 7 chord exists. All right. What that means is C, D, E, F, G in the key of C. G7 is something that's in this key, right? Now playing a 7 chord, a dominant 7 chord by itself, is just kind of dumb. It's like, get on with it, guys. Come on, let's make it happen. Finally, it always resolves to 1. All right, what that means is the 5 chord as a dominant 7 really forces you to go home to 1. All right, now that's just staying in the keys where it's the 5 chord. The cool thing about dominant 7 chords is no matter where you're going, you can point to them with its own dominant 7 chord. All right, what I mean by that, let's say I'm gonna go from a C chord to an A minor chord, right? I just have regular C to A minor. And let's say maybe it's, it's a song that I'm working on and I don't want too much movement, but I do want to I want to spice it up a little bit. All you do is like, all right, I know I'm gonna go to A minor. what is the fifth of A? A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so E is the chord. In this key, we already talked about E minor is the chord that fits in the key. But if we use E dominant 7, it's fair game, even though we're adding a note that isn't in this key technically, because we're going to resolve right after it. Sounds great. So C to A minor. Let's add a little bit of spice in between. C, E7, open 2, open 1, open, A minor. Now you can do this with any chord in this key, right? And it's just a good habit, it's a good practice to start thinking of what the 5 of each one of these chords are, because it's a trick that will always work. Let's pick another one, right? Let's go to F. Let's say I want to go from a C to an F chord. This is a really interesting one. C. All right, what's the 5 of F? F, G, A, B, 5, C. Oh, well, C is the 5 of F. Well, what if I just C? I dominant 7'd that C chord. Even though it's my home chord, even though I'm in the key of C, I'm still thinking in the key of C. I can just drop my pinky right there, add a B flat, and then that's gonna guide me, that's gonna point me to where I wanna go, okay? You can do this for any chord. I wanna reiterate, you can do this for any single chord, any of these chords, right? Let's go through all of them in context. You can play a chord scale. Chord scale is when you play the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, but it's chords. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, C. So I'm going to go from a C to a D. What's the 5th of D? Okay, I know it's D, E, F, G, A. So C, A7, D. Okay, that works. A7. That leaves me there. Now I want to go from C, I want to skip to, let's go to the 3 chord, E, right? I want to go to E minor. All right, what's the 5th of E minor? E, F, G, A, B. B7 leads you to E. What's the 4 chord? F, right? C7 to F. What's the 5 chord? G. Okay, what's the 5 of G? G, A, B, C, D. D7 to G, back to C. Keep it going. 6 chord, we already did that. E7 to A minor. Do I want to go to the B? What do I do there? B, E, B, C, D, E, F. Again, it's hard to really, that's the one weakness here, is like kind of resolving to try to get to the 7 chord, but hey, it works, whatever, F sharp. And you know, you can do an exercise just kind of going through this in fifths, circle of fifths, circle of fourths, so different names for that. Again, that's a little too much for this video anyway. But I just think these are like just super cool, kind of fun exercises you could do, just kind of like, all right, I got C, I'm gonna make this a 7 chord. C7 leads me to F. Maybe I make this a 7 chord and then just kind of keep going on. And that becomes like a really cool kind of like cyclical circular exercise that you could do. But again, I don't think this is too far off of like a beginner thing. It's never too early to start thinking about this, because like, yes, some of these chords like a B flat bar chord like this is difficult, but like this it's not. It's as difficult as an A major. Any of these 7th chords are usable, and even like the E flat minor 7 flat 5 one, it's not that bad once you understand some context and where you can use it, right? So anyways, these are just some stuff, just some kind of fun tips that I learned through my playing that I feel like makes guitar and like basic open chord progressions sound a little more interesting, and of course it's going to sound great with Elixir strings. So get yourself some strings. If you have any questions or comments, hit me in the comment section, Instagram, the website. I'll talk to y'all soon.